because we want to be respectful of everybody's time. And for those of you who are just zooming in and joining us now, Kara and TJ and Forum, I recognize some of these names from recent interviews. If you feel comfortable, please turn on your video. We'd love to see your face, and obviously we'd like others to be able to see each other. If for some reason you can't turn on your video, we get it. So let me get this kicked off. First, welcome to what we're calling an casual conversation with our current MSMI cohort. And really kind of the thinking behind this was folks like myself, I get an opportunity to chat and meet and interview candidates or applicants formally, but we know that there are lots of I'll call them informal, but equally important questions or topics you'd love to hear discuss. For instance, what's the workload like? How many hours are you likely to study? Should you be concerned with your quantitative skills? So those kinds of things and many more just really normal questions. That was the impetus in setting this up. So my name is John O'Meara. I'm the director of the MSMI program, and happy to invite you to a second in a series of webinars. And I hope everybody that zoomed in, I want to ask, we're going to keep this short and tight, probably to about 40-45 minutes, unless there are a lot of questions. And if you stay until the end, we do have a couple of important announcements, and we want to invite you to actually a very, I think, cool, unique third webinar that you might be interested in. So without any further ado, let me introduce our four guest speakers today. And our four guest speakers are current students in our MSMI program. So guys, I'm going to turn it over to you. Maybe I'll just call out names. Just give us introduce us your name, maybe where you're originally from, and maybe just very briefly, what were you doing before you came to USF? And I'm going to do it in the order you're on screen. Sabrina?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Sabrina. I'm originally from Los Angeles, and prior to coming to the MSMI program, I was actually a fellow Don, and I graduated with a marketing degree, and obviously graduating during the pandemic was nerve-wracking. So Professor O'Meara told me about this wonderful program, and it seemed like a great decision, and it turned out it was. So that is what I was doing prior to the program.
Cool, thank you. How about Trinity?
Hello, everyone. My name is Trinity. I'm originally from India, but I moved here when I was 7. So kind of a local, kind of not. I'm calling in from Santa Clara right now. Prior to USF, I was at San Jose State, where I got my bachelor's degree in marketing. I also graduated during the pandemic, so I was looking at a grad program to kind of wait out the job market a little bit. So, and I thought the MSMI program was a great fit because I was looking for a more STEM-based program. So here I am.
Thanks, Trinity. Marielle.
Hi, I'm Marielle, and it's great to see everybody here. I was born and raised in Manila, Philippines, and I moved to the Bay Area a couple of years ago. And before that, I was actually a foreign exchange student at USF. And it was so great that I decided to attend graduate school here too. And now I'm in San Francisco, and that's it for me.
Excellent, thank you. Hey, Tomas.
Hi, I'm Tomas Krasowski. I'm originally from Santa Cruz, California, so not too far from here. Like Sabrina, before beginning the program, I was a Don as well. I majored in history at USF, and I wanted to get into business, into marketing, something that was qualitative and quantitative, that had to do with the sciences, and this program really stood out. So that led me to apply.
Cool, thanks guys for introducing yourselves. For those that are joining us, I'm just going to serve up a couple of questions as we progress to our different graduate students and let them respond. By the way, as I'm doing this, again, this is an informal conversation. It's meant for your benefit. So if anybody has a question as we roll along, don't hesitate to just type that in the chat box. Dory, who you probably see on screen, Dory works with me, or I with her downtown graduate school. She'll monitor the chat box and give you an opportunity if you want to engage any of our speakers, okay? So let me get this kickoff. First big question. The 4 students that you are hearing from, the cool thing is for you to know is they were in our inaugural class of the MSMI program. And we USF had all the best of intentions, obviously, for this to be an in-person program. But this cohort thought they were going to be attending USF in person, but actually so far, because COVID kind of threw us a bit of a curveball, have completed their coursework 100% online. And I'll tell you, speaking on behalf of the faculty in the Department of Marketing, we've been really impressed with the way the cohort has bonded together and the way they've really made the most of the program. So maybe my first question I'll serve up to you guys, and please don't make me call on names. I'll just serve it up to any of the 4 of you. What has your online learning experience been like at USF this far? Erin, take it in whatever direction you'd like to.
Sure. I guess I can start off. For me, the online experience, there obviously are challenges in the sense that you're not really in person with people and can't really get the teamwork collaboration kind of feel that you get when you're in person. But regardless, our cohort has done a great job of establishing a chat where we all could communicate with each other and get questions out of the way. Also, the professors do a great job of meeting with you outside of class to see if they can help you out individually and better provide resources outside of the classroom too.
Cool. Anybody want to add on their thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to add on to Serenity's point. I feel like we have done a great job of being able to connect with our classmates. And I think that a lot of that has fallen on the professors for creating great group projects and making sure that like we all have breakout rooms and group discussions and kind of really getting to be able to know our whole cohort. And going to USF prior, I kind of had high expectations because I learned so much from my undergrad, and I was really happy to see that translate over to graduate school. And another thing that I think is really interesting is kind of the interesting opportunities that kind of happen when you're online. Like we've had amazing guest speakers, and you'll kind of see that when you're trying to get these big name guest speakers, they really don't want to travel to campus. So there is that kind of really cool experience of getting all these really cool people to come and speak to you about jobs and, you know, how they got into their career and what digital marketing is like, you know, at Ipsos or Facebook or LinkedIn. And so you get to get all these experiences that you wouldn't really necessarily get if you were in classroom. So I think it's great that the professors have jumped on that opportunity.
Cool, thanks. Tom or Mariel, do you want to add something on? And I can also just move us along.
Yeah, there was a question, how does this program compare to sort of the undergrad study at USF? And probably Tom or Sabrina could talk about more on that.
Yeah, I'll bring that in just a second if I can, but just hitchhiking on the last 2 replies. For any of you, as you think over the courses that you've taken just far, has there been a memorable class experience or an assignment, good or bad, that you can recall and share with our audience?
Yeah, I could jump on in this one. So I had a consulting project in Professor Durham's class. It was a consumer behavior class. And I actually worked with Tom on this and a few others in our cohort for the launch of this new product by a major tech company in the Bay Area. And at the end of it, we presented our recommendations on sort of like market opportunities and pricing positioning strategies to a panel of product marketing executives. And so if you're worried about getting that real world experience, because it's all online, our professors made sure that we have those consulting projects online as well. So.
Very cool, very cool. Anybody want to think of or add on another class experience or project that you're particularly proud of or kind of stood out for you?
Actually right now we're working on in our quantitative class, we have all developed surveys on a topic that would interest us. And actually me and Tom are in the same group and we're doing it on COVID and your well-being. And I think it's really cool because we're actually getting to use resources like MTurk, where the school is allowing us to go out and they're going to pay participants to take our survey. So it really does feel like you're in a real world experience. I mean, you wouldn't be able to do that if you weren't in a master's program. So I think this is going to be really interesting because I've never, we're using all these softwares that you would totally use in a job. So I'm excited about that one.
Very cool. And in a moment, I promise I'm going to have us address Kara's question in the chat box, but maybe kind of a transition question to get us there. I know in speaking with a lot of the applicants, I get questions about what's the workload like? And I'm talking about your course workload. However you want to take the question, what are your assignments like, or how many hours you spend, or how you schedule your work days of the week. How would you address that? What's your workload like as a current MSMI student? Take it away, Tom. We haven't heard from you.
The workload is, to answer the other person's question, definitely more than I think what you would expect at undergrad. I think that you gotta kind of come ready to do some more work to be in the program. As far as what the work is, it's not so much things like homework assignments that pile up. It's more like large projects that you start at the beginning of the quarter and you work on throughout the 6 weeks. And by the end, you have some sort of a presentation or deliverable. So you might have an audit for a company or a presentation that's a pitch on a recommendation that you would make if you were consulting for them. That's the kind of thing that I worked with Marielle on for a big tech company in the Bay Area.
Excellent. Srinidhi, how about, can you weigh in on how do you view your workload, your assignments, etc., in the program this far?
Yeah, so I'm a full-time student and I currently can't work due to my visa status, but my workload, I feel I can condense into like 4 days of the week for most weeks of the course. But obviously there are times like this week, for example, and next week where it's our finals time. So we obviously have to put in way more work than we would have to put in a regular week. So it does, for me, sometimes it feels like a lot of the work is concentrated in these weeks, which is understandable because that's when a lot of the course projects need to be like finalized and all of the work needs to be put in. It's definitely manageable if you plan for it. And the professors do a great job of letting you know all the dates and their expectations for assignments and all the deliverables that we need to give them. So it's really up to us as students to manage our time well so we don't feel overwhelmed by it.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like you have pretty good access to your professors, or have you been able to speak to, build relationships with your professors? Are they around for you in this environment? Anybody want to jump in on that one?
Yeah, I can definitely say, well, I'm part of the Graduate Marketing Association, and definitely the professors that we've had have been a great resource for the club in just reaching out to speakers, or even if we have questions for the professors, they're pretty responsive over email. They also sometimes just set up individual check-ins for us. They give us a full availability of their schedule, and as long as we make an appointment with them ahead of time, we have pretty easy access to them. I know Dr. K is one of those professors that we all have had individual contact with and gotten a lot of insight on a lot of our projects. So for me, that's my experience with the professors.
I can attest to that too. I would say all the professors are just extremely willing to help you, even if it's not school related, which is really nice. I've, done interview practice with professors. I've gone to them for career advice. I have had them look over my resume and introduce me to people that they think would be, good for my career path. So I think in that sense, you get so much more of just an educational connection, which is really nice because your master's, your goal is to graduate with a great job. And so having that support is really, really nice, especially because I mean, at least for me in my life, I don't know a whole lot of people that are high up in the marketing world. So to have professors that have done it and really, crushed it in their industry, it's really nice to be able to go to them for advice.
Very cool. Thanks for sharing. Sometimes in chatting with our new applicants, I get some applicants that are a little concerned about in their background, they may not have come from a formal business or marketing undergrad, or may not have taken, I'll say, kind of heavier duty stats courses. Can any of you weigh in? What does it feel like being in an MSMI program? Obviously, it's 50% qual, 50% quant, and some of the students have some pretty significant business background. How would you guys weigh in on that?
I could weigh in on that. I entered the program as a history undergraduate, so I hadn't taken a lot of business or marketing classes that would have maybe prepared or laid that kind of foundation. What I did take that I found to be incredibly useful for the quantitative parts of this course were elementary statistics, of course. I think you need to have that one under your belt, and financial accounting. Those are the two that I think, as far as hard quant classes, you probably want to have under your belt or at least be comfortable with.
Cool.
Yeah, actually, like during my interview with John, he asked me about my sort of wanting quant grades back in my undergraduate program. And yeah, I admitted to that it wasn't the very best, but I told him that since then I'd been polishing up my quant skills and managed to score sort of a good GRE score. And now in my graduate program, we finished our stats class and I was improving my quant grades. And so as long as you show the intent to improve your quant skills, I think that you would be in good shape.
Well said. Cool. If I can, I'm going to migrate some of our discussion from specific MSMI coursework and just talk about the USF grad school experience. And by the way, as I do this, if any of our listeners, sorry, I'm so focused on kind of watching and I have my question list. So if any our attendees have questions, please don't hesitate to type a question in the chat box and we'll do our best to address it. But in any case, to the four of you, migrating our conversation from individual coursework to the School of Management, I think some of our listeners would really be keen to hear that there are some other things going on in downtown graduate school. And one of those is the Malloy Group. Have any of you, I'm pretty certain a couple of you have had experience, can you share with the listeners, what is the Malloy Group? And then what did you do with them?
Sure. So I'm currently part of the Malloy Group. It's a consulting group based in the campus, and it's run by two of our professors. And essentially, they give us a few projects to work on as a consulting group. And at the beginning of the quarter, they give us a survey to kind of understand what our strengths and weaknesses are, and understand what we're trying to learn from a project, and then assign us to the projects they think would be the best fit for us. So for my consulting project right now, we're working to see to convert this company into a new knowledge base. So we're researching knowledge bases and doing surveys with them, trying to understand what their needs are. So a lot of what I'm learning in class, for example, from survey design, is being very useful for this project specifically. So it's a great way of getting real world experience with an actual company and an actual problem that they have. So it's just a student consulting project with that, if that makes sense.
Cool. Anybody else have experience with Malloy Group downtown?
I'm in the Malay group as well. Right now, I'm part of a team, and we're working on a consulting project with Uber. So it's, I think, an exciting thing that you can, become part of and get some hands-on experience towards your career.
Excellent. Other things outside of your field of study, I'll tell you, as the Department of Marketing, we were real thrilled to see that when this first MSMI cohort came on, that some of the students decided to band together. And as a matter of fact, not just MSMI, but also MBA students, and start a new graduate marketing association. Maybe someone can open up their microphone and just share with our attendees today. What is the GMA? What was some of the impetus? Maybe what's one or two events that you guys are thinking of holding?
I can take this one. So a few of the MSMI students recognize the need to have a graduate marketing club. We currently have an undergraduate marketing club, but we thought it would be nice for students that are in the graduate level to have a place to collaborate and kind of gather to share their interest in marketing. So the GMA was formed as a result of that. Actually, Professor O'Mara is our advisor. So a few of the events that we had is we recently did a LinkedIn workshop where we had a speaker come in and give us advice on how to optimize our LinkedIn and how to improve our personal brands to better position ourselves in the job market. Another event we're hoping to have is with the Vice President of Marketing and Insights for 23andMe. This will be happening within the next few months. And GMA is involved in the creation of the event, and it's open to all graduate students that are interested in it. So yeah, I'm sure Tom or Mariel have more stuff to add on to it.
Either one of you just want to add one or two other thoughts?
Yeah, we're also excited to be working with the California Simulation Alliance as a consulting group. So once again, it's another chance to get hands-on experience working with a real business, and also for some of our international students, it presents an opportunity to work that isn't otherwise available because of visa issues.
As you moving away from the GMA, for any of you, as you focus obviously on your MSMI program, but have you engaged in any other outside of class activities, whether it's workshops or career discussion, development? Are there any other School of Management activities that you guys have gotten involved in?
Yeah, so I attended, it was entitled Navigating the New Normal. It was a workshop with Vicky Kamalehi. So she's an external career advisor who has worked in recruitment at big companies like Google, and she held a workshop on resume and LinkedIn profiles. And she even pulled up a couple of hours and helped us edit it on the spot. So that was a great experience.
Very cool. Any other add-ons, or I'll move along? Okay.
I was just gonna quickly add, for me at least, I like that the School of Management emails me with a bunch of opportunities. I know that may seem minute, but when you're in your master's, I am currently looking, or always looking, for new ways to connect with people. And so they host so many networking events and career fairs that are, I would say, at a way higher level than the ones that you probably experience in your undergraduate career. Because at this point, you're getting your master's. So people really do want to talk with you and connect with you, because it's a really big deal to get your master's. So it's really great that the School of Management puts things on like that for us and connects you with these companies.
Cool. In chatting with applicants online, I definitely get questions around what's it like balancing kind of all the different things you have to do? And for our listeners, whether or not you know it, some of the grad students are beyond just students. They also have jobs. They're involved in the GMA, et cetera. For any of the four of you, what's it like balancing, online schoolwork with your school of management activities, with, part-time jobs that I know some of you have, plus, I think you have supposed to have a life someplace out there also. What's it like balancing those 3 or 4 or 5, juggling those 3, 4, or 5 balls all at once? And any advice you might pass along to our listeners?
I can take this one. I actually have a part-time job as a digital marketing coordinator for a PR and marketing agency. And as I'm also in the MSMI program, I think it's extremely manageable so long as you're organized. I think we all kind of touched on this, but our professors are really there for us. So, and they do provide those dates, and they provide, all the expectations at the beginning of the class. So long as you can keep up your communication with your employer and your professors, and make sure that you can carve out enough time to do your schoolwork, I think it's definitely manageable to at least have an internship or a part-time job on the side. And I still go out on the weekends. So long as you're able to dedicate a couple hours, to meeting up with your groups, because a lot of, again, I think Tomas said this, but you don't really get homework. You're working on these projects that are super similar to projects that you would get if you worked at a marketing firm. So long as you can take the time to still carve out, enough, like 2 hours to meet with your group, get your project done, or at least distribute and stuff, then I mean, it's really doable. And most of our classes are like 6:30 to 9:30 p.m., I want to say, or 6 to 9:30. So it makes it really easy. If you tell your internship or your part-time job, I can work from 8:30 to, let's say I work like 8:30 to 5, and I have an hour before class to kind of get my things together. And then I work, on Wednesdays, we have class from 9 to 1. So I kind of block off my Wednesday for just a school day. And so long as you can, you're not afraid to tell your employer, like, look, school comes first, it's totally manageable.
Cool. Any of the other of you would like to address that one?
Yeah, just to add on to that, our professors are flexible with some of the dates sometimes, and they're very understanding of us having other project work coming prior to their project stuff. So sometimes they are willing to change the date according to what they hear about our course load from other classes. But as Sabrina said, as long as you manage it well, it's pretty good. There's obviously going to be weeks where you have to put in way more effort than other weeks. And that's just something you have to mentally prepare for, and just acknowledge that it's going to be like go time for that 1 or 2 weeks. And just putting in that work for those few weeks is enough. Sometimes a little bit of a sacrifice you have to make, but it's a necessary sacrifice if you want to get all the full worth of like a project. So yeah.
How about for Mira or Thomas? I see in the chat box, someone's asking the question, what's the maximum number of hours you've worked during a week so far in the program? I think someone's concerned about, are you gonna have to stay up late and work? I think the answer is yes, but I'm gonna push it over to you.
Yeah, I definitely have worked beyond 12 a.m. But I think it's all about prioritizing what you feel would sort of help you with your career trajectory. And if that's the certain project that you're working on in class, then focus on that. I tend to get lost in the details, so you just have to look at the bigger picture sometimes and sort of see really what matters to you. So that's it for me.
They're piggybacking off of what Sabrina said. I think a lot of it is really in how you organize it and in the decisions that you ultimately get to make. So if you start from the beginning and you can chunk out 1 or 2 days a week to put in a couple hours a day, then most of it you'll be able to manage and not have to put in, a crazy overnight, all-nighter kind of deal. But if you wait until week 5 or week 6, then you're going to have to maybe stay up all night, maybe all morning to catch up on what you've missed.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I'm going to take just a brief pause here just for the folks that have zoomed in for us. I'm going to kind of segue our conversation a little more broadly, right? We started with the coursework and then School of Management. I'm going to invite our students to talk about how they navigate life at USF and San Francisco. And when I say San Francisco, I'm talking the Bay Area and all that COVID has to offer us. As I do this though, I'm kind of taking a little bit of a breather, and I want to make certain I'm giving you guys a chance. Anybody out there that has a question, this would be a great time, either just open your microphone or type it in, either way. Don't hesitate to push a question at one or more of our grad students, okay? So with that, we've talked a fair amount about the coursework, the professors, your workload. How about outside of the MSMI? What's been one of your favorite experiences, either being at USF or your peers or just being in the city?
Within our cohort, we actually have a few people that like to do some social activities together sometimes. So, for example, I think off the top of my mind, we play Among Us sometimes. So we have a few nights where we kind of just try to bond outside of class and not be so work oriented all the time, to kind of get to know each other and just relax sometimes. So that's been something that was pretty fun outside of the program.
I love San Francisco, so I just have to say that it's like the best city to me ever. And I think it's really cool to go to a school where when you tell someone in San Francisco you go to USF, they're like, oh, I either know someone who goes there, I went there, or they work with someone who went to, there's always a connection. And I think to me, that's like a really cool thing. Especially because our school is so popular. So it's really nice to like have that backing. And I also live with one of my best friends is also in the same cohort, and we live together, and our whole cohort has like a WhatsApp, a giant group chat. So we're all super connected, and that makes it really fun. And I mean, I think even during COVID, SF is still fun. Obviously it's different, but I think it's still a great city and you still get to make all the connections. I know that's probably not, what it's different, but you still get to make all the connections that you would if it was open. It's just over Zoom. But as the city begins to open again, and I think as the downtown campus starts, if we can open when the city starts to open, it's such a great location. I drive past it because I'm like, oh, I would be there, but circumstances. But it's such a great location, and it's just such a cool city.
Well, how about this? I promise we'll open the doors for you, Sabrina, as soon as we can. Just hitchhiking on this question, because for those who are applying, in case you're interested, our cohort for the MSMI is, I think, rather, I won't say small, but intimate, right? So it's about 20 to 25 students, and you have 12 professors. So that gives you a sense of a student-teacher ratio, right? The other thing I was going to say is within the cohort, it's about half US and about half international students. So maybe I'm going to push a question to Muriel and Trinity, just kind of build on the last one, which is, as an international student, what's it been like to, come here, be in San Francisco Bay Area and amongst your peers, et cetera? What's the experience been like? And have there been any surprises? Hopefully mostly good, but any surprises or any challenges that you might want to share with those that are online with us?
Yeah, I can go. I was moving out here a couple of years ago. The biggest challenge for me may have been sort of like finding a new set of friends, because it's not so easy to uproot yourself and plant your roots elsewhere But, you know, lucky for you, it'll be much easier starting off in a graduate program where you can easily make friends. I know I have, and I'm sure my fellow MSMI cohort would agree with that. And so, yeah, now I have made some very good friends, both inside and outside of USF, despite the pandemic, and it all worked out.
Well, I actually grew up here, but I was actually in India when the program started, and being in the program, a lot of the professors connected some of the international students, so it's easier for us to work together, and we're more understanding of that. And actually, because of that, is the reason why I was able to get a lot of help with the process of moving over here. One of my friends from the program also was in India at the time, so me and her used to talk a lot to understand the process, and we used to be in communication with the international student services a lot. So they were a major help. We'd obviously be in constant contact, and no matter how annoying we were with the amount of questions we had for them, they would reply in a timely manner, and they made sure we all had the right resources to like come over here and make sure we don't have to worry about the time differences and stuff. So we can really make it back here and be set.
Yeah, I think there was, and by the way, Tom, if you had more to add, please interrupt me. I don't mean to cut anybody off. I was looking at our chat box, and are there resources besides professors and faculty available to help you succeed? So other than your exact teachers, who else do you guys lean on when you have questions or you need help or assistance? Are there, how do you guys navigate that if you do?
For me at least, depending on what the situation is, if it's, if I need help and I really rely on my cohort. We've gotten close, I feel like, especially for being online. So being able to text people within your cohort or Slack them and kind of work on things and brainstorm with them has been a big help. And I think having, these like, we've all been like making these like tight knit groups because we've done so many group projects. So kind of figuring out, who's better at quant, who's better at qual, who's really good at, let's say optimizing SEO, you kind of will start to see which students in the cohort have certain strengths. And then to that, you can all play off each other's strengths and learn from certain people. Like I know off the top of my head, there's one student, thinking about him, you guys aren't going to know who he is, but he's really great with quant, and I love quant, but it's not my strength by any means. So I definitely have reached out to him and texted him and asked him for advice, and it's been great. So in that sense, when it comes to like schoolwork and needing help, I think leaning on your cohort has been really nice. And then when it comes to seeking out, other opportunities, and I think this is kind of overshadowed a lot, but all the resources that USF offers, as in like LinkedIn Learning, all the programs you can use, I think it's really important to take advantage of things like this, because you don't realize, how much Python is used in the marketing world, how much R is used to sort through data, because, it's something that's standard and you don't really take advantage of it when you're in your undergraduate, unfortunately. So I think when you start looking for more serious jobs and you start trying to, look at what these jobs require, the job requirements are, it's great to know that you still can learn these programs and you can still be applicable for these jobs because you have all these softwares accessible from USF. So that is really nice. And you wouldn't probably have access to these softwares if you weren't in a master's program. So being able to take advantage of those has been really nice.
Yeah. For everybody that's out there, I'm going to slowly, I promised you that we would manage this to about 45 minutes, and we're coming up on that. In a moment, I'm going to queue up kind of our last question for our planned question for our grad students to share with you. As I do, if anybody out there, if you have one final question or thought you'd like to share, please make certain you put that in the chat box, and because again, this session is for you. But Guys, as we slowly start to kind of bring this to an end, my last question for you is just kind of an overarching question. Imagine you were a new MSMI applicant today. So knowing what you know now, what would you tell or advise yourself? If any.
I really wish I had kind of a guide of all the resources USF has. I don't really think, for me personally, it took me a while to kind of navigate it and kind of get knowledge from other students that are involved on campus a lot more. So for me personally, if I was to go back, I wish I got like a magic list of like, hey, these are USF's resources. This is how they can help you. That definitely would have been great. I know for a fact now I use the Career Center services a lot more and kind of get help for like career planning. So yeah, like so because of this, the Graduate Marketing Association is actually trying to create a resource page so we can like help guide new students and point them towards a certain direction of an opportunity that USF has.
Cool, thanks. And by the way, I'm gonna ask each of the four of you to respond because I think you all have your own unique points of view. Muriel, if you were going to give yourself advice as a new applicant, what advice might you share with our audience?
Mm-hmm. So I've applied to many schools, and I think something that always helps, and I know that some of you have already done it, it's connect with future alumni like, myself on LinkedIn and learn as much as you can from them about the program and sort of see if your interests lie within that. And yeah, I think that would be a great opportunity. So yeah, feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn.
Cool. Tom?
Yeah, I would definitely say to my past self coming in as a prospective student, prepare for opportunities. Really, between the clubs you can join, the opportunities that your professors might be able to get you as an intern or as a professional, between things you can get involved in the schoolwork, there's more opportunity really than you may even be able to process. You'll get opportunity overload. You'll have the Graduate Career Center emailing you, telling you that Facebook is hosting. You'll get an email saying JP Morgan is hiring. You'll get a message from a professor saying, hey, I know someone in the gaming industry and he might be able to hook you up at EA or Ubisoft. And I think that even if you jam-packed your schedule 6-7 days a week, there's more opportunities than you'd be able to fit within it. So I would say prepare for opportunities.
Cool. Sabrina, over to you.
Kind of going off what Tom said, I think for me, I would probably tell myself, because marketing is there's just so many different avenues of it, figure out what kind of jobs you're interested in, highlight what the requirements are, go to the class schedule. I wish I would have done this, and highlight where you're going to learn those things, and then make a list and make sure, to that point that like you're writing down everything that's going to fit those job requirements and plugging them into your resume. Because as Tom said, I wake up to an email of like 5 different amazing companies and I'm like, I wish I just had my resume to like pump out and that it was like ready to go. Because you're learning so much. So I wish I would have done that. And even just like, if you have like 3 resumes, sorry, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but like a digital marketing, social media coordinator, like figure out what kind of niche you want to go into marketing, and just kind of like what Tom said, prepare, because USF will serve you up with a lot of opportunities, and it's hard to try to optimize your resume while you're trying to get good grades and you're also trying to do life. So
yeah, well said. We're going to start wrapping up in just a minute. I'm looking over in the chat box, and if I don't understand the question correctly, please just open your mic and share with me. But I think Anae's asking, as someone who's already studying marketing undergrad, I'm going to broaden this question a little bit to any of the 4 of you. As someone who's studying marketing undergrad, do you feel like there's added value in the MSMI program? And if so, what might that be?
I think a lot of the differences that I saw from being a undergrad marketing degree and a graduate marketing degree is that I didn't really have that much practical experience in my undergrad, and a lot of the professors make it a key learning point within all their classes for us to be actively applying what we learn in class to, let's say, like Qualtrics, which is a tool that we need to use. So I definitely know a lot more about the resources that we can use or the tools that we use. So that's definitely been something that has been like the difference between undergrad and grad for me.
And even if for the others of you, even if you weren't an undergrad marketing major, is there a specific value that you're seeing in your MSMI that's distinct or additional to whatever your undergrad was?
For me, at least, I saw someone else in the chat could asked what was the difference even between USF marketing. And I think this is probably applicable to all undergraduate, like Serenity said. But it's much deeper dive into marketing. I think that when you're in your undergraduate, you barely touch the surface of marketing and you think you get into it. And then you get into the real world and you start to look at job requirements and you're like, I don't know how to do an ethnography. I don't know how to do a survey. I don't know how to storytell with data. And then you just feel super unprepared because who's going to give you this experience to do that? Because you go in there and you say, I haven't done these things. And they're like, well, then we're not going to hire you. And you're like, well, where do I get this experience from then? And so the MSMI program really goes into like an in-depth what marketing is. It gives you, anytime I keep saying storytelling with data, because anytime you sell that to an employer, they're like automatically floored. They're like, wow, storytelling with data. I mean, it's like a buzzword for people. But you're taking so many classes that are so much more in depth than you would in your undergraduate. And I mean, it's a year-long program just on marketing. And there's so many different avenues of it. So I think you'll feel way more prepared and confident to work in marketing after the program.
Anybody else want to weigh in before we start to wrap up? More speakers? Okay. And also any of our viewers who are still online. By the way, I'm going to thank our viewers twice, but right now I'll thank all of you for joining us at the beginning and staying till the end. Any other final questions? We tried to, again, have this be a casual kind of back and forth conversation and incorporate any questions from you all. Any last questions before we start to wrap up?
We did have one question, well, a question that's popped up a few times in my direct message, but there are some questions around admissions and people just wanting to hear a little bit about, what your experience was. Any tips or recommendations, if you can remember back in the moment when you had to go through that process. But any suggestions for soon to be or applicants going through the process, things that they should think about?
So over to the four of you guys. I think the question is, when you were applying to USF, was there anything that you thought you did that was particularly smart, or anything that you kind of worried over or spent time on, or that helped you in your applications process at USF? I know that's like thinking back a year ago, but one or two quick thoughts?
I definitely felt a little bit of imposter syndrome applying for this program, especially because it was a STEM degree. I just had a basic marketing degree in business administration, and I was also a fresh graduate with little to no work experience. So I definitely was kind of doubting myself and my ability to get into the program, but I kind of framed it so I can see all the external activities I did outside of college to show them that I'm not just gonna sit around and wait for an opportunity. I'm gonna make the opportunities work for me. So definitely conveying that through the interview part especially was something I think that worked in my favor with admissions.
Very cool. You don't have to, but Tom or Mariel, any tips or tricks for our candidates?
I'd say get strong letters of recommendation from someone who knows you well. either a supervisor or a professor or one of both. I had a good statistics teacher who wrote me a good letter of recommendation. And when I had my interview with John, him and the other interviewer actually brought it up in the conversation. I said, oh, we noticed that you must be good at stats. You have this great letter from your former stats professor. And I think that helped. John, maybe you can weigh in on this, the standout.
Yeah, I will say just if I can add on along with the students, I think your application is just really show your true self. I can remember a million years ago when I was your age and applying for a master's program like Trinity, there is a little bit of that, you know, I'm applying, am I overstating, you know, how good or smart I am? So if you have I would err to that side because quite frankly, I think our students are amazing. So I didn't know that about you, Trinity. I'm going to have to make a note. But in any case, and then Tom's point, for your letters of recommendation, the most important qualification is they know you, right? Don't just get a letter from somebody you took a class you got an A in, but they can't really round out because between your statement of purpose and honestly, your letters of recommendation, those are probably the most important parts of the application, at least for me. Everybody else has good grades and we all went to good schools. You know what I'm talking about, right? So how about this? If I can, I'm going to use this moment to start wrapping up. If I could just say a couple of things. For our applicants, I believe everybody online, I'm looking at names, I think all your applications are in. If not, the next window or deadline is March 15th, followed by May 15th. So please make certain you meet one of those deadlines. Also, I want to reiterate, the MSMI program and GMA together are going to be putting on another webinar, totally different from this one. We're going to be inviting the head of consumer insights for a rather well-known company called 23andMe. It's going to happen in April. As a matter of fact, I think I'm working with a couple of these folks to pull that off. So everybody online, if you want, to come and listen to a very well-known head of consumer insights with deep, deep, deep e-commerce experience. Let's see. So to all our listeners, I want to, or guests, I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking time. I know what it's like. You know, we all get zoomed out and it's early or late in your hometown. So making time to come and listen to our students and myself, I think that's really cool that you invested the time, and I hope it was worth your while. To our speakers, our guests don't know this, but they had next week is they wrap up a module. So that means all these folks, I know they all have papers and projects due. So thanks for, in all seriousness, thanks for taking an hour or more of your time preparing and zooming in today. Really, really appreciate it. I think our applicants appreciate hearing directly from you guys. That about, oh, by the way, I also want to thank Dory. You know, just another example, someone asked, what are the other resources? There are all these great people in our downtown graduate school, not just professors that are here to support your experience, like Dory. So Dory, thank you also. That wraps it up. Thank you everybody for coming. You're welcome to split. I'm going to hang on for just a couple minutes in case somebody has a one-off question. Otherwise, everybody have a great evening or a great beginning to your day, okay? Take care.